Thanks for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast, recorded here at Audio Workstations in Bohemia, New York. We are interviewing local business owners, entrepreneurs, trying to provide you with the best information on all types of products and services available right here on Long Island. I'm your host, Matt, and let's jump right into the conversation. Welcome, everyone, to the Long Island Local Podcast. We are recording today at Audio Workstations here in Bohemia, and we are lucky enough to have on as our guest, Rhonda Klch. And Rhonda's business is Equity First Inc., and the website is equityfirstconsultants.com. We'd like to just talk to you a little bit today about your business. We're talking to local entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses. That's what interests us. We're here on Long Island, and we want to get to know our neighbors and inform our audience about any and all good things to do here on Long Island, people to speak with, businesses to utilize. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So our first question is about the founding of your company and when it began and why.
Okay. So you want me to just dive right in?
Dive right in for me.
Sure. Excellent. So I incorporated Equity First in 2004. And what we do at Equity First is credit and financial solutions. So my backstory was that I started to invest in real estate when I was 23. And my attorney actually introduced me to a mentor in the mortgage industry. But at that point in time, I was only 23 years old. And it was a very male-dominated industry. This was going back into 1996.
Okay.
And so I created my pathway and the beginnings of my mortgage career as working through the declines of everybody else's A business. So if I walked into a real estate company, they would say, hey, you're so cute, honey, at 100 pounds soaking wet at the time. But we work with Billy and John and Bobby and, Nick. So what I did was I went back and said, how about you give me the declines and the clients that they cannot help? And what I went and did was we created solutions for those clients, resetting expectations, working through credit challenges and budget challenges. And so with that in mind, when the market started to shift a little bit, I decided that since I enjoyed so much helping the consumer and give them opportunity and hope that they may not have had prior, I incorporated in 2004 into my own business.
Okay. The incorporation was 2004. And then how long was it prior when you were, running into that male-dominated and taking the declines?
Yeah. So, I started in 1996 to get involved in the industry. But by the time I started working and facilitating relationships, then what happened was we called it the subprime market. So clients would utilize me for my services. And then at the time as a mortgage originator, I was able to work through the credit challenges for the client. And then I would do their mortgage, right? Like that was the goal. So I help you, and then I'm going to do your loan. I gave you opportunity when the other people declined you. But by the time 2004 came, I incorporated because the subprime market started. And therefore, people with lower credit scores, other opportunities opened up. So the clients were no longer as loyal. So I would spend and invest my time to creating a result and getting you a better credit score. And then they would go ahead and say, you were fantastic. I'm going to go to the credit union now. So here I was, I invested my time and they would go elsewhere with my results.
Right.
So that's when I decided to incorporate.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And keep that retention, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so was the inspiration the actual real estate investment that you mentioned, or?
That was probably my starting point when I realized I went to school for business, then I went to school for my CFP. And I love just business, helping and doing whatever I can to really, encourage people, right? Even from a younger age. So for me, I found a lot of joy in giving comfort to people that may not have thought that they had opportunity, right? It's very depressing. And imagine walking into some place saying, I really need to do something solid for my family, like purchase a home.
Right.
And then you walk in and the person said, you're a nice guy, Matt, but at the end of the day, your credit's no good and your income doesn't qualify. Instead of taking time to mature the relationship and reset expectations and give you a plan of action, They just discarded you and they moved on to the next. So that's really where I found my skill sets to come into play. And because people were already challenged, the mere fact that I was willing to walk in and assist them when nobody else was gave them hope.
Yeah. And then I imagine they're grateful in that moment because they feel like, okay, people are literally discarding me and not wanting to work with me because I don't meet some requirement.
Correct.
And it's like, there's got to be a way somehow still. And so you're the person who's saying, okay, well, we will find a way together.
Correct.
I like that a lot. It does seem inspirational because it does seem like a depressing thing to be told like, okay, you can't do this.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen for you. Right. And then anytime you have someone who's feeling that way, there's a large potential to make them feel better.
Correct. And it was great. You know, within my first year, I did fantastic. And I just kept building from there. And again, I chose to incorporate in 2004. And it was because at that point, the people that I was working with were no longer loyal to my brand.
Right.
So by opening up the business, it allowed me to charge for my services. And my feeling at that time was, I'll charge you for my service. If you go elsewhere, that opportunity was only afforded to you because of the work that I did. So it was, it worked hand in hand. It was good.
Yeah. And it seems like by explaining that to them in the beginning, it gives them the correct perspective so that if they were to be disloyal, they would at least feel better.
Exactly.
Okay. Prior to the investment at 23 and that time frame of 96, what were you up to before that? And what were you thinking that you would be up to before the real estate happened?
So, before that, I started at 23. So there really wasn't that much more before that, right? But truth be told, that I was very entrepreneur driven from an early age. And even when I was in high school, I graduated with a scholarship, a business scholarship. And anybody that knows me or has time to spend with me knows my brain just kind of functions in that business, entrepreneur, risk-taking space. So I opened up my first business at 18.
Wow.
The money that I made from my first business at 18 is what afforded me the opportunity to start buying houses when I was 23.
Okay, that makes sense. But now I need to know what that business was at 18.
It's quite a chuckle. So ironically, no, I don't do no well. So again, for those that know me, no is no. What do you mean no? Not now, maybe later, but a straight up no doesn't usually work. Okay. So I love making money, right? Call it for what it is. And when I was 17, I applied for a job that I saw at the time, I want to say maybe in like Suffolk Life or the Penny Saver. And it was all about make big money. Right? Are you somebody that can get on the phone and make big money? I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I applied for this position and I go in for the interview and they looked at me, they're like, you're a kid. I was like, no, I'm here to work. And do you even know what we do here? Nope, but tell me. So after challenging back and forth with the person interviewing me, they opted to allow me to try this job. And it was actually selling rare coins over the phone. So the biggest challenge I had was they said, you're going to be in a room full of middle-aged, moms and dads that really just sit here all day long and, talk about investment strategies and utilizing the rare coin market to build their portfolio.
Interesting.
And this is way before we had, computers and back in the day of maybe even a pager, right? So they're like, how are you supposed to speak like that? I said, well, I'll learn from the people around me. And I went to the library. I took out books. I learned as much as I could on rare coins. And, and again, I just say I listen to the people around me. If you can pick up on somebody else's behavior and style and rebuttals, I utilize that same opportunity. And it was fun. And I did that for a little bit and then unfortunately found out that the company I worked for was not necessarily, we'll just say that they were not operating under the best of business practices.
Okay.
And I then felt very guilty.
Okay.
So I, at the time, decided that I would open up my own business and I would continue to do the work that I did. And I made appropriate relationships with vendors that allowed me to then at 18 open my own company.
Okay. So you did the rare coin thing for someone else and then realized, okay, they're not doing business the way I would do business. And then you went and did the rare coin thing for yourself.
Correct.
And then made some money there and then invested in real estate.
Correct.
And then got into the world of helping people invest in their own real estate.
And that's my story.
Okay. All right. I like it. And I think I understand it a bit better now. So that's awesome. What were the biggest challenges for you starting up?
So I think starting up when I was 18 had different challenges than when I started up and incorporated in 2004. Both of them were the fact that I was young. People did not look at me as if I had enough life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, realistically, in both industries, it was male dominated.
Yeah.
So those for me were my biggest challenges. So you learn to work through it and you learn to just let people see you for you. And my biggest advice to myself back then, which is still what I tell people, if you are 100% who you are at all points in time, you never have to be confused with the person you're pretending to be.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
So, but those are my challenges.
Okay. Keep the identity straight and you never have to be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you find is the most effective way of marketing your business?
My business over the years has been successful because we are all word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So where other companies right now are focusing on media campaigns and ClickFunnels campaigns and social media, I will say that I utilize social media, but I do not advertise and promote that way.
Okay.
We are a very B2B organization, although our end result is to work with the consumer, but we are B2B driven. I want to have a long-term, long-lasting relationship with the businesses that are on contract with us.
Okay. And so maybe you can explain just a little bit so I understand how the B2B then translates to the end consumer thing?
Absolutely. So at Equity First, we are credit and financial solutions. So a big part of our business is to help people get credit and financially healthy. So good business partners for us, for example, might be mortgage companies, real estate professionals, bankers, title professionals, wealth management.
Okay.
So, for example, I may get a phone call from a mortgage lender that says, we have a client here that has a credit score that does not qualify them for a mortgage program. We will work through those credit challenges. So our relationship begins with that mortgage lender.
That makes sense.
Although we are working hand in hand with their client.
Okay.
So we're both invested in the transaction.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me now. Thank you for that explanation. Yeah. It's very much clear. So obviously the past 2 years has been a challenge for everyone. How did you push past all these pandemic-related issues that we've all been dealing with? How did you get through that?
So I think for like everybody else, in the beginning, it was very nerve-wracking. Nobody knows what was going to happen with their business. Some businesses thrived while other businesses failed. What we did, like a lot of other people, we cleared some of our overhead. Our staff was allowed to work remote. Everything we do is through CRM systems. So as long as everybody managed to maintain the relationships, we were good. We did have a little bit of cutbacks, right? We did have to lay off a few of our staff members. But ultimately, what we realized is that we jumped into doing a lot for the community and supporting a lot of our community members that were really challenged and emotionally challenged by not knowing the right decision-making for their family. So what we landed up doing was a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of community education so that we were able to help other people direct, what they can do and what their options were. So because of that, I would be lying if I said temporarily our business did not decline, but the amount of people that reached out for help increased. And for us, that was just as rewarding. I have an amazing staff of people that really want to do well for the community. So we never turned anybody away if they needed to speak to somebody about protecting either their credit or making good financial decisions. And that really only lasted for us maybe about 6 months. Okay. And then as people started recognizing or feeling the new normal, right, we were able to transition accordingly. And during that period of time, when the real estate market in New York started opening back up and the mortgages, and the interest rates remained low, then it became a big push,
Yeah.
right? So it was very temporary.
I've heard that there's been, especially in 2020, a lot of real estate activity on Long Island.
Oh my God.
Perhaps some exodus happening from the city.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that makes sense, right? There's a lot of activity, a lot of people looking to buy and trying to figure out how to get themselves on the right path to do that. Okay, that's awesome that you were able to, help people when they were stressed out the most.
It's very nerve-wracking. We just did a campaign on social media, supporting the people that opt not to get vaccinated. If they lose employment because they're opting not to be vaccinated and they need somebody to speak to in reference to what we call action plans for keeping their credit healthy and keeping, just really having somebody to speak with, right?
Yeah.
That we were offering our services at no charge.
That's cool. It does seem like it's a complicated web of financial workings out there just in the economy in general. And it does seem like, perhaps there's not enough education built into the educational system about how to actually keep yourself financially healthy.
Yeah. Good habits start young.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with learning about ancient Sumeria, but I'm also, I would have appreciated a few more financial health classes. And
we do those. We do them for high school. We had grants we had grants up until COVID.
Okay.
They will be reinitiating those grants. I was told probably January of this year. I was notified. So we are covered through the BOCES Perkins grant.
Okay.
The school districts get to choose our services to come in, and we educate high school students in reference to making, again, good choices. And we speak to a lot of high school students about making good choices even when they're away at school, how to not become a victim of credit card abuse, and how to really also speak to their parents about what an actual budget looks like.
Yeah.
Children want to go away to expensive schools, and, Long Island, for what it is, we're predominantly a middle to upper middle class society. And kids don't always recognize the financial impact to a family if somebody wants to go to a better school. So we speak a lot about, just making good choices and how to have open conversations about family budgets and, what that looks like so that the kids can help make decisions that might not impact their parents the same way.
Yeah. I mean, college is a huge expense. And then they, basically throw a credit card application in your face your first day.
They do.
Outside the student center or whatever.
They do.
Get a free T-shirt, rack up some debt.
Correct.
Yeah, more than the $20 of the T-shirt. Yeah. Now, when you do that in the high schools, is it like a single class?
It's usually single classes. We'll go in. Sometimes we'll get called into a business class or an economics class where we step in for just that one session.
Got it.
For that class. Doesn't mean we won't be there for a full day as the classes rotate.
Right.
Some of the schools that we work with will ask us to come and do more of an assembly style. And then sometimes we're also called into certain school districts to do different programs that they do after school.
Maybe in general, the culture of Long Island parenting is not focused enough on teaching kids how to budget, right? It's more like the land of take for granted. We don't want you to have to worry about that, right? And then it comes back to bite you in the ass later.
It does. It does.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm glad that you're educating the youth here on the island of Long. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing today with the business?
I think really for me, part of my challenges is that we're such a great company, and I don't say that because it's mine. We really spend the right amount of time to speak to the client and keep them updated and give them options and resources. And a lot of people will look at what we do and go, oh, so you're a credit repair company. Well, working through credit challenges is part of what we do, but it's not necessarily the only thing we do for a client. So one of our challenges right now is that there are a lot of companies that have the ability of putting together $1 million looking website, and overnight they look like rock stars and they have money behind them and they're pushing out, these wonderful looking campaigns, but behind the scenes, they don't actually have an industry professional that's seasoned who knows how to respond. And what's happening is that my industry then gets a very poor reputation.
Okay.
So I don't come with all the bells and whistles intentionally.
It's the sizzle versus the steak, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of companies sizzling out there, but you've got the steak.
And it's challenging because people will say, well, I applied, or I was working with another company, or what will make you different, and you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem telling somebody what makes us different. But when I'm fighting against a company that I know has been open for 4 months, that hired, people that are not industry professionals, that are there to be order takers and push paper, that's a challenge for me.
Or they're reading a script over the phone.
Correct.
As opposed to understanding what's actually going on.
Correct.
If you give them a question that has them deviate from the script, it gets a little dicey. Yeah.
So for me, that's a big challenge, not just for myself, but anybody that's a professional within my space.
That makes sense. What is your favorite part of your work?
Realistically, a lot of what I do is my favorite part because the clients are so important. There's really a very personal, emotional attachment that we get with our clients because they're coming to us when they need help. So from the onset of the first level of communication to helping them and then following through with them on their journey and then watching how they really develop over time. And the end result might be, again, buying a car, buying a house, sending their child to school. So whatever level of involvement that we're in with that client, it's a personal and emotional experience that we journey with them.
It makes sense because coming to a business like yours, you're in a vulnerable position, right? Yeah. As a customer, as a client, you're starting off saying, I need help. Things are not the way I want them to be. And I need somebody's help to try and get me there, which is not always the client-business relationship. Yeah. A lot of the times they're just looking for a service or a product. In this scenario they're being evaluated. You have to look into all their details and get all up in their business, learn all kinds of stuff about them that they wouldn't necessarily share with the average person, right? Sure, or with the average business owner that they just met. And so it does seem like it necessitates a little bit more of a personal relationship, a little bit more of an emotional connection, because you're helping them achieve something important to them and taking them from feeling vulnerable and like they can't accomplish certain things to feeling like they've been built up stronger and that they can.
And what happens too is that there's a level of embarrassment and vulnerability. Yeah. So that when they come to us, they need to feel like they are protected and that their information is private and and confidential.
Yeah, it's a sensitive topic, right? Well, at least our society, we have this general understanding that we're all trying to get more money and, we live in a capitalist society and business is good, money is good. But at the same time, talking about the specifics of money and finance on an individual or family level is taboo, right? And we're not as open about that, probably because we all just wish we had more, right? And, whatever level of embarrassment comes from feeling like you should have more money, but you have less money. And then you have to come explain to somebody all of those details. So it does make sense why it's such a special relationship that you end up, getting with your clients.
Most of the clients that we see, they don't choose to not pay their bills and overspend. There's usually some sort of a life event that triggered it, right? Sick parent, divorce, disability, poor investment decision. So stuff happens, right? Life happens. So that's usually, so they've already been dealing with something that was the trigger. And then this is the aftermath.
Financial result of that and then trying to recover from it. Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad you're there to help them through that.
We try.
Now, we talked about the job itself, but let's talk about what you love about the business itself. What is your favorite part about having the business, owning the business?
I'd say my favorite part about owning the business is that I feel like I'm a good leader.
Okay.
Right, so I know how to set a good example, and I try to take the people that work for me or are within my center of influence, and I really try to make everybody a better person. I don't look at myself as a business owner, business leader. I'm better than somebody else. Together, we are a team, and everybody's position is just as important as somebody else's.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel that I work well in that leadership position.
Okay, that's important, right? And it's important for people working for you and with you to respect you in that way, right? That's, I think, the best motivator is some form of respect rather than the fear way, right? I've worked for different people before, in being independent, being freelance, having the studio, and there's definitely a difference between boss or a leader or a president of a company that people feel respect towards
Sure.
versus some other feeling, right?
We all have accountability to something. It's just a matter of how you handle it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. So this is the sci-fi portion of the interview.
Oh, God.
I'm a
okay.
science fiction fan. So we're going to get in the Long Island Local Podcast time machine, and we're going to just travel back in time, and you can pick any moment in your life where you could magically appear and provide advice to yourself at a younger age. What would that advice be?
Oh, my God. You know, people have asked me that before.
Okay.
And people have said to me, if you could go back and you could, talk to yourself, whatever it may be, what would you do different? And the truth is, I don't think I would change a thing because every obstacle that I've had along the way has created who I am today.
Okay.
Right? So
That makes sense.
I was a young mom. I put myself through college. There's so many little things about who I am, but without each one of those experiences, I could not be the person that I am now. And I'm proud of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my company. And I enjoy the people that I have time to spend with. And I think because of everything that I've experienced in the past, it's allowed me to really shine and be a good friend, right? And be a good wife to my husband.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, the advice is keep doing what you're doing.
For me, anyway.
For you.
Look, you get those people that are like, well, wouldn't you want to go back and say you should have you should have invested in this, or you shouldn't have sold that, or you should have done this. But if everything in life was always set up for you, you'd have no failure, and then you don't really know how to grow.
Right. And so no critical decisions to change anything mentally, just outlook wise. Or
I would say outlook wise, you should, especially in business, really, really spend time getting to know who you think your friends are.
Okay.
Right. I'm very private. And over the years, I've learned to share less of myself because especially the Long Island business community could be very vicious.
Okay.
So I think by keeping your information private and really choosing who you want to share certain details with.
Right.
Because your reputation is really everything that you have.
Right. Okay. So a little bit of separation between the
church and state.
The business networking and the personal networking.
Uh-huh.
Right. Be careful about the personal sphere versus the business sphere.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they need to be mutually exclusive a little bit. Okay. I can understand that. All right. And so to get away from the business mindset a little bit, what is the thing that you do to get away, to unwind, to relax, perhaps something that is unrelated to the business?
So anybody that knows me can't even make this up. I am a huge redneck at heart, and I have a farm.
Okay.
So my downtime is spent with my animals.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Heading actually, I don't know when this airs per se, but, we're in studio right now, and when I leave here, I have 5 or 6 of my girlfriends, and we're going to stay at my house have a girls' trip this weekend.
That's awesome.
To my house upstate.
What type of animals do you have?
I have goats and pigs and chickens, ducks, rabbits. Just bought 2 donkeys.
Wow. And do you have to have employees to maintain that when you're not there, or do you have to feed everyone every day yourself? Or
everyone every day. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I have 5 kids,
okay.
And and together we opted to. This was about me, right? I love my animals. I love my downtime. And there's a point in time in I think everybody's life you have to do what makes you happy because I run the ship right at home. So when you are running your ship, if I fuel out, everybody in my downstream will feel that.
Right.
So for me, I did this for me. It was a lifelong journey of something that I wanted and it was important. We only put it together during COVID. But now as a family, it was a family decision and a family responsibility. So if I'm not there, one of my children is, and my husband's there, and we all collaborate together to keep the animals happy and fed.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so having all the animals on the farm for you is almost like a recharge,
absolutely.
Recharge the batteries.
They are the best.
That's awesome. Animals definitely have a way, I think, of reminding us humans maybe that we take ourselves a little too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
We get a little bit too lost in our heads and our cerebral thoughts. And they seem to be always focused in the moment, right? And living in the moment, and whether it's food or running around and getting pet on the head, it reminds you maybe to just focus on the moment a little bit more and let the rest of the anxieties of everyday life go.
They're silly.
Yeah.
So they make you laugh.
Yeah, and that's important
They're
too.
not just good, cuddle partners. They're just, they make me laugh. They do silly things and you watch them run or the way they chew or whatever it may be about their mannerisms, but they're silly.
Yeah, and silliness is needed, I think. Humor is needed. It's been a real serious couple years and everyone needs to laugh and stay calm and relax. So I appreciate that. Okay, awesome. That is our official list of podcast questions. Is there anything that you feel like we left out or that you want to mention before we wrap up, just in case?
No, I think we're good. I mean, if anybody out there does have any credit or financial challenges and you were looking for a safe place to get your answers and you want to talk to a trusted advisor, feel free that you could reach out to me if that's okay. My email again is Rhonda, RHONDA, @equityfirstconsultants.com, or you can give me a call. My office line is 631-714-4822, and I am extension 102.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for coming down and talking to us. I really like learning about everything that you're doing for people and their financial health. And so Rhonda's company, again, for everyone, is Equity First, and the website is equityfirstconsultants.com. Thank you so much, Rhonda, for coming and talking to us today. I had a lot of fun.
You got it. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast. If you're interested in studio membership programs for music production or content creation, please visit audioworkstationsinc.com. And please check out our guest of today's podcast. We enjoy having on all local entrepreneurs. If you'd like to be considered for a featured interview on our podcast, please contact LongIslandLocalPodcast@gmail.com.